Well, good morning. Welcome back for another episode of Talking Bulldogs, where I am Neil Baldock, and this is,
And I'm I'm Matt Baldock, and it could also be good afternoon, depending on when you're listening.
yeah, well, it could be, but it's the morning now, so that's what I'm saying. And
You've time-stamped it.
that's right. Yeah, 29th of January, 2026. Let's get into it. So we had a brief chat and said that we've kind of been seeing a lot of things being reported online which aren't quite accurate, and we feel that people kind of need to get their facts straight before they start posting them on social media. Is that right?
Yeah, I mean that's a bit blunt. I mean maybe it's a little thing that's just irking me, and I don't know if it's just me being grumpy. But so the first thing I would say is I'm seeing lots of people posting videos and reporting stuff, which is great. So I'm seeing agents not just saying we want houses to sell or this is the house we've got for sale. I'm seeing agents actually reporting the news, which is brilliant. But as I have said time and time again, there is a real importance to be correct rather than first. And we have it in the news, just in the news media generally, people are always wanting to be first rather than correct. And there's just a couple of things that I've seen agents doing videos on which aren't actually quite accurate. And then I feel you could undo your hard work by doing the video by not having the right facts. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes exact sense. And yes, I did deliver it bluntly because that's just how I do things.
Okay, all right, fine, good. So the I'm going to go backwards in order. The one that happened a couple of days ago is so Keir Starmer turned up on TikTok and said, which was a weird place to find Keir Starmer. I thought, not that I really follow him, but I don't know why they did it on TikTok.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into politics because you won't like
No,
it.
that's fine. No, that's fine. But I wonder if they feel a leasehold demographic is on TikTok. I just wonder either they've done no research or there's research that we should be doing. But that's another thought. But anyway, he was announcing that they are looking to cap the ground rents on leasehold properties at £250. Okay,
Yes.
which is fantastic because we have it here in Chelmsford. I'm sure people have it elsewhere where if the ground rent is over a certain amount, actually I think it is 250 or 300 in Chelmsford, then lenders don't like to lend on it, and a deed we need to get deeds of variation, and everything takes twice as long and costs more than it should. However, as with everything, the devil is in the detail, and this probably, well, it's not law because as we've found out with the Renters' Rights Act, things have to go through Parliament and be passed and become law, and it's not looking at happening until 2028. But I
Mm.
saw quite a few agents online doing video, which is fantastic, but stating that ground rents were now capped at £250, and they're not.
No, that's right, and it happens with all legislation change. You get the headline announced, which is basically normally a vote winner. So that's why they announce it. And then obviously the devil is in the detail. And as we've seen with the Renters' Rights Act, which was the Renters' Rights Bill, things things change as that goes from a bill to an act and then enshrined in law. So yeah, it's all well and good posting about it, and that's a great and it is a good thing to do. And we do encourage people to be marketing themselves and their businesses on social media, but you can really kind of cause yourself more ag than you want if you're not telling people the exact truth, or even telling them that like this is what's proposed, but this will not come in, and following it up with the fact that this won't come in until X date.
No, exactly. Because I mean, the kind of the tagline on all the posts I saw were, get in touch with me to find out how this affects your property. Well, the fact is, it doesn't really affect it. I've checked with our mortgage brokers. The mortgage lenders aren't going, oh, yeah, fine, that's going to happen in 2028. So we'll now ease up, because as you've said, things can change. What people need to bear in mind on the ground rent issue is that so many ground rents are owned by private pension funds. So they're not going to give that up without a fight. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but it could not happen. So it doesn't actually make a difference today. So yeah, I think people are going to get in a bit of hot water. They're going to get invited to valuations. People are going to think there's no ground rent issues anymore, and there are. And that's one thing and to be honest, and I'll just say it, what really worries me is I'm seeing a lot of self-employed model agents saying it who clearly don't have the backing from like a real agency owned head office telling them what's kind of going on. And where I've seen that more is the next bit we're going to go back is I've seen a couple of agents, literally within the last couple of weeks, talk about the renters' rights bill.
Mm.
And does the renters' rights bill exist, Neil?
Well, no, because it's now become an act, and it is the law which is coming into, or the first phases of it is coming into play on the 1st of May this year. So yeah, it's funny with the act and bill stuff because I think if you're a real how can we put it, legislation geek, then you get really picky on stuff like that. And there is the argument is like, well, do the public really care? But the reason it is really important, in my opinion, is the way legislation is written is very intricate. So one word and the way that can change a definition is quite important. And so if you're missing details such as the fact that it is no longer a bill and it is now an act, does that show that you kind of don't read things in detail and you kind of scan read them and you take those headlines and then you move with them and you don't understand it properly? And that's dangerous with legislation because as I say, that was the same when I was in the police officer. One piece of wording could mean it's the difference between a burglary and just a normal theft, to now we've got legislation, um, which could mean if you don't serve one document, you can't get possession of the property back. And if people don't know that intricately, that is a bit of a worry.
Yes, no, 100%. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this, but I've got a law degree.
Yes, but I'm probably more qualified in law than you.
No, but you do because I mean, obviously, it's a long time ago that I went to university, but there is something about burglary about having to enter a property. And
Correct.
the really old piece of case law is there was a guy sitting on the windowsill looking through someone's window, doing something he shouldn't do with his down below regions. And the case law depended on whether that was big enough to have considered entering the property or not.
Mm. Well, there's lots of, yeah, I mean, there's lots of case law as to whether if you were to, I don't know, put a broom handle with a hook on it through someone's window and, and take it out, is that entering a property or not? Because you haven't physically entered, but the stick has. So,
Yeah, I was talking about a willy though, and that's funnier than a broomstick. So,
well, it is,
um,
but the point I'm making is, because I am a bit of a legislature geek, is that, yeah, you kind of need to know those definitions.
correct. And the point, which is the same point, but you will testify. I am not a legislation geek, but but it's annoying me that people are saying renters' rights because what it's saying to me is, if you don't, like to your point, if you don't even know that a bill has become an act, how can I trust you to then tell me the other things, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
And we've been, it's not, it's the public. I've been in rooms with other agents and they've been talking, I've been in rooms with people like selling media services and they've said, oh, yeah, talk about the renters' rights bill. And it's like, no, it doesn't exist. And now
Mm,
you've said that, I have to go through everything else you've said to
mm,
kind of make sure it's correct. So, yeah, but it's not just, if you kind of going to carry on with the Renters' Rights Act, it's the same. So the changes are coming. But I saw a video the other day with a chap proudly telling everybody that you couldn't serve a Section 21 anymore.
mm.
Is that
Yeah.
correct?
No, that's not correct because you can serve a Section 21 up till the last day of April because this law doesn't come into place until the 1st of May. So, yeah, no, that's really important. And that's really important because there's a lot of advice to give to landlord clients in between now and that implementation date because if they're wanting to sell the property, we need to take that into consideration. If they want to move back into it themselves, we need to take that into consideration. It all depends on what their plans are for that property long term. Um, so now's a really important like advisory time scale, and so yeah, you need to be giving the right advice to people.
Yeah, and I think if you're out there, and as you say, like the public might not know, but if you're out there saying things like you can't serve Section 21s, or you can't say no to a pet, which again will come, but obviously there'll be caveats to that. Um, you can really destroy your whole levels of trust. So you might be a really competent sales agent, you might be a really competent lettings agent. You've just used the wrong terminology. But I think that once you've destroyed that level of trust, it's really difficult to bring it back.
Yeah, yeah, definitely, because you are marketing yourself on being the trusted advisor and being that kind of client advisor that people can go to for their advice. So if you're spouting the wrong stuff, to put it bluntly, that's not good.
No. No. So yeah, so that's really my kind of things. It's the same, and the other one that's happened a few times is interest rates drops. You know, what agents love to do is preload their social media. So when an interest rate drop is meant to happen, they've preloaded a video or a post saying, "Oh, the interest rates have come down." Then the interest rates haven't come down, and they've posted that they
Mm.
have. And the difficulty is you can delete a post, obviously, if you know you've got something wrong. But it's out there and it's been seen by so many people. People screenshot things to send to their friends. So I just really feel like so. I did our post on the ground rent cap. I did that yesterday, so on Wednesday, and it happened on Tuesday. So I was kind of like 24 hours behind other
Mm.
agents in the town putting out, but to be frank, incorrect information because I just wanted to read it, make sure, research it a bit, and make sure that what the facts were the facts. And so I'm always happy to be a day late on the news, but actually be accurate. And that's just something I would encourage other agents to do, really.
Mm. Yeah, definitely. And if you really want to be that like person who gets it out on the same day, probably just put a few caveats in your message and just say, this is like the headline stuff that's come out today, but the devil will be in the detail, and I'll bring you another update um, over the coming days, and then bring out another video. So it actually gives you a chance to give a second piece of content, but
Yeah,
you haven't said something totally incorrect in the first one.
exactly. But yeah, to be honest, mate, that is all I wanted to get off my chest this week.
Yeah, fair enough, fair enough. Well, yeah, we'll keep it a short and sweet one this week then. Obviously, we're right at the end of January, um, but I mean, look, signs are pretty positive, aren't they, in terms of activity levels, people out viewing, number of people asking us out for valuations. So I think people have got to be getting their backs behind it now and capitalising on that.
Yeah, I would think so. If you want, yeah, like a quick overview of the month, really. I always say we're a mid-market agent, so we deal with what I call normal people making normal moves, mums and dads, kids back to school, same situations in life as me and you, really. We probably didn't get going in our head, you've got the kids, you've got to get back to school. Obviously, you've got your son full time with you, um, maybe the 15th onwards. And that's when we get going. But so, first couple of weeks, sales were fairly low in January, as they tend to be, but back end of the month, we've really kind of ramped. We've almost done the month's target in the last week rather than the
Mm.
first three. But as you say, valuation numbers are really up, and I've seen people reporting that across the board. The listing conversion rate, I always find drops a bit in January because a lot of people in January kind of getting their ducks in a row and saying, can I have a valuation while I make my plans for the year? But again, again, back end of this month, we're starting to see the listings all coming out. So the only thing I would say to agents is it'll be the end of March before you know it. They say your first quarter sets up your year. And January's done already. And I do think the first quarter kind of really runs through. So don't panic if you haven't, done an amazing amount in January, but also don't use it as too much of an excuse. It's already to say, yeah, January doesn't get going until the back end of it. But if you're still saying that, come the middle of February, you're in a bit of trouble. So I mean, we have a meeting with our team every week to go over the numbers and the figures. And I think people should really be doing that. Yeah, be realistic about what you're going to do, but don't let the excuse kind of hang on for too long.
Mm, yeah, yeah, very good point. And I think we should also mention we are finding a bit of a swing at the minute in the lettings market. We've been used to for many many years. You put a property up on Rightmove and Zoopla, and it flies out the door. The phone won't stop ringing. It flies out the door. We're finding at the minute we've got actually more stock coming to the market and less quality tenant applications, less numbers of tenant applications. So yeah, people just got to bear in mind that actually letting agents are going to have to work a little bit harder for this probably first quarter. Um, this it's a time old thing with lettings. We have these periods where you might have a couple of weeks or a few weeks of like a slump, and then you can't really tell why, and then all of a sudden it picks up again. We might be finding people have heard the headlines of the Renters' Rights Act, and they're sitting on their laurels and deciding not to move until that comes in and things like that. So I think, and also where in other places such as Scotland, where they've brought in legislations before, you generally find rents will then continue to rise and there will be another bounce. But I think we have got a little bit of a period at the minute. So, we've got to work a bit harder as letting agents and advise clients conservatively on their pricing for the first time in quite a while.
Yeah, no, I make you right. I was at a Property Mark regional conference yesterday and speaking to some other letting agents, and I'd say obviously my thoughts were on our people sitting on their hands a bit until um, the RRA comes in, and another agent said that without me even mentioning it. So I think that does seem to be a thing. And again, it's we're speaking about content and advising and educating landlords on what the changes are going to be. But again, you've got to advise the tenants because I think there might be tenants out there thinking, oh, well, if I take a tenancy now, I'm stuck to those terms. And when the Renters' Right Acts come in, that doesn't apply to me. But obviously, it will apply to all existing tenancies, right?
Yeah, yeah,
So
exactly.
to a certain extent, you kind of want to be if you don't want to put it out there on mass and videos, certainly you need to be phoning tenants. And that's something that people haven't had to do for a while, probably actually have phone outs and try and let properties. And you need to be asking them, if people say, "Oh, I'm not moving at the minute," what are the reasons that, what's holding you back? And if people are saying, "Well, I'm waiting for this Renters' Right Act to come in," then just say, "Look, you're covered because it will help you either way." And I also think we talk a lot about pricing being so sensitive on the sales market. We do a lot of work with our team. We've done a lot of work with other agents on pricing correctly. But and with lettings, you can kind of get away with it a little bit because places, the price have been racing away. People let, or if it doesn't go within about a week, you do a slight adjustment and it tends to go. But I actually think you need more of a sales head on at the minute with the lettings values. And as you say, actually advising the landlords and saying, look, there's more competition than there's ever been before for properties. And sometimes because you get landlords say, oh, I'm not worried, we can wait a bit. But and again, investigative questions, being curious, we talk about this a lot, work out what is their mortgage, what are their outgoings. So, if you say you're happy to keep it empty for an extra month, but if that extra month's costing you, £600 and we're looking at saving you 50 quid, how does it all marry up?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, that's what I always say. As a letting agent, you've got to have a bit of a commercial head on really, and you talk to the landlords in business terms. And if 50 quid reduction is 600 quid over the year, but if your property is worth 1100 and it sits empty for a month, you've lost more money than you would with the 50 quid reduction. So those are the conversations that are going to have to be happening, and also, you know, landlords have got to be advised that you've had this good for a long, long time with little investment into the property, rents continually rising. Now you've got to either invest some money in it or the market is dictating where it sits.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's an adjustment, and landlords aren't used to having had those conversations because they haven't had to for a while. But again, we always say, this job, be it sales or lettings, isn't a telephone answering service. It's we call them consultants sometimes, but we're called negotiators for a reason. That's our job, is to negotiate the deal and give the right advice to position where the market is and kind of get the deal done.
Yeah, well, it is, but it's consultative work in terms of the landlord. The landlord isn't really, if you're an agent worth your soul, they're not paying you to chuck it on Rightmove. They're paying for your years of experience and your advice and to help them kind of navigate through some choppy waters sometimes. Um, and we had this. A couple of years ago, I think in sales, you could have been a sales agent for 10 years and never seen a downturn market. So we had like, and again in lettings, you could have been a lettings agent for a long time and never known a time when you've got more stock than tenants. So again, it's a case of learning, realizing you don't know everything, re-educating, training your team, as we do here, um, running role plays, that kind of stuff, and just showing them the kind of the different ways of thinking and the different ways of wording to use to explain to the landlords that you want to get the best result for them.
Yeah. Good stuff. So I think in summary, we're encouraging people to make video and do their social media content, but we're telling people get your facts straight first,
Yeah,
and then little roundup of the market, and we're good to go.
perfect. Yeah, good. Listen, we tried finishing it. You wanted to go a little bit more. We've done almost two for the price of one there. So that's good. So, yeah,
Good
thank
stuff.
you for that, Neil. Hope you have a good rest of the day.
Oh, I hope you do too, Matthew.
Thank you. I've been Matt Baldock. You've been,
Neil Baldock.
and that was Talking Bulldogs.
Goodbye.